Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 13.2 has been out for about 5 days by the time you're watching this probably, and it's been a better experience than before, but it still has a ways to go. And so I want to talk about how it's been for me, how it's been for you, and then we'll talk about the YouTube community poll and a bunch of your comments. Now, I've been using this primarily on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, along with the 2018 12.9-inch iPad Pro. And so the experience overall has been better than it has been before, but based off over 400 comments that you've talked about, and we'll talk about in a moment how it's been for you, but it has a ways to go. Now, the main issue that a lot of you are reporting, as well as myself, is poor RAM management. And RAM management is something I made a separate video on because prominent websites such as iMore, The Verge, and others have mentioned this recently as well. And what I mean by that is when you open an app, close it, maybe open another app, close it, then go into, let's say, Twitter, close it, the App Store, you'll see it reloaded, and this is the problem that we're having, is apps are reloading regardless if you have background app refresh on or not. Safari is very aggressive about reloading every single time. So if we go to Apple, for example, then we leave, then we come back, oftentimes it will just reload your tabs. And this isn't necessarily a big problem for everyone, but it can be a problem when you're trying to multitask, especially on something like the iPad over here. So in general, it definitely could get better. Now, this is definitely a software thing because when these devices, well, this device was on iOS 12, it was much more responsive, it had less issues, and the other issue I'm having is odd glitches with touch sensitivity on both iPhone and iPad. So sometimes I'll go to touch, it doesn't work, and with 13.2, they were supposed to fix the issue when you were in an app and you swipe up to go home. That was a known issue, and it continues to be an issue not to swipe home, but now occasionally touch will freeze. Then I'll lock the iPhone, turn it back on, unlock it, and then it will be fine. So this seems to be an issue that I see over and over and over. Now, another thing that actually my wife is experiencing, she's using a couple-year-old phone, and I'm going to talk about that phone in a couple other videos soon. It's an iPhone 10, and that particular phone all of a sudden today isn't letting her hear that she has text messages. So if the phone is off or just down like this, she goes to receive a text message, it just doesn't come in and she doesn't hear anything. As soon as she picks the phone up, she's actually hearing those notifications and then they're pushing to her watch. So she keeps having weird issues like that. We've tried rebooting and things, but it seems to be a continual issue. Now, as far as performance is concerned, I've had no issues. I've had no slowdowns, no lockups, no apps crashing, nothing whatsoever. So performance, I have no complaints. Although this is a newer device, it should perform well, but I've really had no issues when it comes to that. And battery for me has been okay. I actually don't check battery as much as I need to, especially on this particular phone because it just lasts so long. So normally for the videos, I'll go back and check it and you'll see I'm getting excellent battery life. 4 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time, 1 hour and 6 minutes of screen off time. And that is with less than 50% of the battery used. So that means I've been using the battery, and this number here, you'll see today, it's got 1 hour and 30 minutes of screen on time, and I've used less than probably 20% of the battery. So it's doing really well for me, but quite a few of you have said that it's not doing well. In fact, I took all of the information from the poll that we're going to look at in a moment and compiled it, and there's 174 mentions of the word battery, and 90% of those are bad battery. Quite a few of you have good battery, but most of you have bad battery. Also, there's 62 times where you mention RAM management as a problem. Out of 400 comments, that's mentioned 62 times. 26 times people are mentioning the Mail app as having an issue. I actually have no issues with the Mail app myself. And then 14 times people have mentioned that they've had app crashes, and then a couple people mentioned they had touch issues like myself. So this is a buggy OS, and dare I say we're back to iOS 11. We're kind of getting like that. The bugs in this OS are not great, although it's working better. And the one issue I forgot to mention is I've only had 1 or 2 instances where it wouldn't switch from Wi-Fi to cellular easily. Now, that problem is mostly resolved except for YouTube apps for some reason. So there's something weird going on. They obviously changed some of the backend code and some of the APIs or the plugins that app developers can use to talk to the OS. So with the iPad, like I said, the same experience really that I'm having on the iPhone, the same experience is there, where occasionally I'll have a touch freeze or things like that. So it's just kind of odd that I'm having these issues, but it is something that I'm seeing over and over. Now let's take a look at the YouTube community poll. Now, as far as the YouTube community poll is concerned, it's been up for about a day or so, and it has 10,000 votes. 60% of you have said that it's been great. 5% said terrible, which is actually up a little bit from the previous one. 24% of you said okay, but some bugs, and 10% of you use Android. So thanks again. It seems to be pretty consistent that 10% of the viewers of at least the poll anyway are using Android. So at least thanks for participating. Now, there are 463 comments. I've gone through and read every single one of them, and then I compiled what devices you guys are using this time around so that I made sure that we covered everything. So, for example, 14 of you that commented are using iPhone SE. So that's really good to see that, and every single device is represented here. So I'll put some stats on the side so you can see how many of each are mentioned in the comments. Now, this could change by the time you're watching the video, but at least at the time of watching this, that's what's in here. Now let me go ahead and sort this by oldest first, and then we'll take a look at some of the comments. And you'll see the first thing is running great on the iPhone SE, no issues with LTE and battery life. So here's someone with great battery life, still having battery drain on a new iPhone XR. Apple fix please, nothing wrong with my battery. It's been great on my iPhone 11 Pro Max with no issues at all till now. So I don't know if that means you have no issues or maybe you're having issues now. I'm not sure. Reminders is still terrible. Some AirPlay issues, other problems, iPhone 11 Pro and iPad Pro here. Running buttery smooth on my iPhone 11 Pro Max on T-Mobile service. iPhone 6S, I have issues with the screen, will not respond to touch, mainly in maps. It's been great. I love it. So smooth and easy to use. No problems at all. iPhone 11. iPhone XS Max, battery life has been great and super smooth, but I'm now having LTE issues for the first time on this phone. Data just stops working randomly, and I'd have to put it in airplane mode to fix it. Love your videos. Thank you. Yeah, that problem continues to happen every so often. I'm not sure what they're doing about it. iPhone XS, it seems to have hyper-aggressive memory management. Apps reload far more frequently than I've been used to. Other than that, there's nothing to complain about here. iPhone X, and my battery is going down crazy fast, but otherwise no problems. On my email, cannot delete mail without touching each message singularly. Says select all at top, but when that is done, it removes the delete and asks where I want to move them. It's kind of an odd bug. Seems like my iPad Pro 11-inch is getting hotter than before. I'm just doing basic things. Before, on earlier iPadOS 13 versions and on iOS 12, it never was like this. iPhone 11 Pro is great though. Good battery life. Everything runs smooth. YouTube keeps reloading. Sad to see that not everyone got the camera mode switch using iPhone XR. That camera mode switch definitely should be moved onto every iPhone. I don't really understand why they haven't done that. If you're not familiar with that, that's just if you go into the camera app, go to video, and here in the upper right, you'll see it says 4K 60. On only the 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max can you switch that by tapping it. It's kind of a goofy thing. I don't know why Apple doesn't bring it to everything. No issues that I can tell on my iPhone XR and iPad Air 3. My 6S looks smoother on the overall UI. It might be my impression. Battery is the same. No, I think it is smoother in general. iPhone X, I'm experiencing a bug when the screen randomly inverts colors. This is really annoying since it can happen in any situation and can be fixed by turning the screen off and on again. Everything else is fine though. So that's sort of like the touch bug that I'm having where it flips on and off or you can fix it by turning the screen on and off. So you're having colors switch back and forth. And that's the first time I've seen that one, but some strange bugs in this version. RAM management bad on iPhone 8 Plus, and to be honest, battery is still not good as in 12.4. I see this back and forth, and it's hard to say what people are doing as far as apps. Everyone's experience is a little bit different because we all use different apps, so that will make a difference, but I would love to see some standardization. If we all use the same apps, it would take thousands of us, but just to see if battery life would change at all. iPhone 8 and iPad mini 4, I'm experiencing a bug with my message app. Some messages are not syncing between my iPhone and iPad. However, all of my messages are synced with my MacBook. Keep up the exceptional videos. Thank you. I haven't been able to download the software yet since I don't have Wi-Fi. I have an iPhone 6S. This part's unfortunate, since there's no reason today that we can't use cellular data to install updates, but for some reason Apple won't implement it. I believe it's a deal with the cell phone carriers. If you have someone that has a hotspot near you, just connect to that and install it. Otherwise, unfortunately, you'll have to wait or use iTunes. You could connect to a phone or a computer that way. iPhone 7 Plus, issues with multitasking, a lot. I've been hearing about so many issues that I've decided to stay on 13.1.3 on both my iPhone 10 and my iPad Pro. I would say 13.2 is still far more stable and fixes a lot more bugs than 13.1.3, but either way, you can stay on that, but I definitely would say 13.2 is better, but I would expect an update soon, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Everything's been pretty good on my iPhone XS Max. Huge battery drain on my iPhone 6S after updating any version of iOS 13. Battery capacity was 97% in iOS 13.0.1, but after updating 13.2, battery capacity shows 91%. Battery is only 8 months old now. Kindly solve the issue. Thanks. First of all, battery health is measured every so often, so that number can shift when you're updating because it's reloading and checking everything again, and then it can correct itself later. But 8 months later is completely fine at 91%. That's the only way to fix that is to replace the battery. And Apple usually won't replace it unless you're in the 80 to 90% range. The good, this update pulled out my device off the startup loop so I can use my iPhone 6S Plus again. The apps keep crashing, plus starting up the device takes ages literally. There's not really a reason to restart the device, just leave it on all the time. Unless you have to save power that dramatically, I would just leave it on. iPhone XR, my battery is bad, but not as bad as the previous update. With 13.1.3, I could barely get to 6 hours, and my phone is only a month and a half old. Now it lasts me around 8.5 hours, which is better, but still not the 10 hours that it lasted me at first. Using an iPhone 7, it's been mostly okay for me, but as a voiceover user who appreciates Apple's commitment and effort to making their product accessible to everyone, I think the number of bugs, both in terms of accessibility and in general, are just alarming. I'm not going to mention any specific bugs in here. I have done and will always do my part in reporting issues and file bug reports to Apple. But what matter now is for Apple itself to listen to their customers. I think everyone would agree that the bugs we have to deal with are just too much, and Apple seriously has to take a thorough look at start fixing them. It might just be me, but I feel the past few updates, major updates I mean, are just adding the number of bugs. Still try to be optimistic that things will take a turn for the better. Thanks for keeping me. You're welcome. iOS 13.2 is running great on my iPhone XS. My only complaint is blank web pages in Safari and sometimes web pages that jiggle side to side when scrolling. I haven't seen the scroll jiggle bug, but that should be interesting. Hopefully they fix that soon. I'm getting only 5.5 hours of screen on time with my iPhone XS. With no gaming like PUBG or Call of Duty, seems like Apple is getting worse day by day in terms of battery. I actually would say 5.5 hours is great for a XS. For the smaller battery size. Now with a XS Max, 6.5 is normal, so that's actually quite good. Multiple app crashes, most apps keep refreshing, Mail app is still buggy, loss of mobile data on a regular basis. Bad battery life, iPhone 11 Pro, you'll see more bad battery life. So this update overall definitely has some issues with battery life. Obviously there's things with the apps running in the background. There's all sorts of weird issues with this update. That doesn't mean it's worse than 13.1.3, it just means that Apple needs to fix iOS 13 still. That's it for iOS 13.2. Now, I would expect an update this coming week with iOS 13.3 maybe, or a new beta. It's hard to say what Apple's going to do, but it seems like we should have another beta. That's pretty normal throughout the year, and then maybe another public version to address the app RAM management issue, since that seems to be getting a lot of attention. But we may not see that for a couple weeks, since they haven't been able to fix it really since the introduction of 13 in June when they put out the first beta. But either way, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Also, if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description as I always do. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.